Good morning, team. It's Tuesday, April 2nd. I'm Amy Corr. I'm out of our Goose Island office, and I've got a great guest here with me today for coffee. I've got Peter Boomer, president of Proper Rate. Welcome, Peter.
Thank you, Amy.
We've got some great conversation ahead for all of you. We're going to talk a little bit about lending and what's going on as it relates to some of the recent conversation in real estate. So grab your hot cup of coffee, maybe a power smoothie, lemon water, whatever it might be this fine morning, and let's jump into the next episode of Coffee with Amy and Kevin. Peter, good morning.
Good morning, Amy.
Thanks for joining me. I don't know where Kevin is. I think he's on vacation, far, far away. But I'm excited to have a great conversation with you this morning. You know, we've had a lot going on as it relates to real estate being in the headlines. You know, just recently, a couple weeks ago, heard about the settlement that NAR had as it related to a lot of the lawsuits going on. But I wanted to talk with you a little bit today about the lending component, because I do think that there is a big part of all of this as it relates to buyers in the marketplace, and you know, the conversation about commissions, let's just face it, and being able to make sure that their buyer broker gets paid. You know, sometimes or oftentimes buyers can't necessarily do that on top of trying to purchase a home and getting a mortgage, right? So, you know, there's a lot of conversation, I think, right now about what is this going to look like as it does relate to mortgages moving forward. We know right now buyers cannot finance commission into the mortgage. So I wanted to kind of talk with you and see what, you know, you're hearing in the world of lending. Is something going to change? Are there things that are going to be coming down the pike that might be able to assist with some of these changes that we're seeing in real estate right now?
And that's a great question. I think it's very important. This is all new to all of us. And things are going to change, just not on the real estate side, but also on the financing side. There's already conversation in Washington with Fannie and Freddie and HUD talking about how does that look? How does financing of commissions, how would it look? Especially in the first-time home buyer segment. Think about the money that people are trying to gather together for a down payment. And now if they had to pay commissions on top of that, that's going to really hurt housing, especially in that segment. So our politicians are aware of it. I know the agencies are aware of it, and it's active conversation. Is it going to be solved tomorrow? Probably not. But over time, some way we'll find it to be solved.
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think the conversation has to happen because, especially to your point, I think some of these first-time home buyers, you know, I think in this market now, I think that's where some of the biggest concern is. But there's also a concern, let's talk about VA buyers who are out there. I know that right now, I don't think that they have the ability, let me read this, that the real estate agent fees cannot actually be paid by the borrowers, right? So if we've got a seller who isn't interested in offering up a compensation to a buyer's broker, you know, what happens in those scenarios? Is there anything that's being looked at from the VA perspective?
You know, let's remember one thing. The VA always moves very slowly.
Okay.
That's what history's taught us. And that is a big concern of mine. Having parents that were both veterans, it's near and dear to my heart. When you're looking at this, it is true. The VA specifically says the buyer cannot pay the real estate commission. So that is in the rules today. I do expect the VA to address it, but it is going to be over time. I think the Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA will probably get it a little quicker than VA, but VA has to address this issue. It's very important. Some of the things for our veterans, just to let you know, a little PR or Proper Rate, we waive our lender fees for veterans when they're buying a home. So not every lender does that, but it's something that we are very committed to, and I know we'll be at the forefront of those conversations.
Okay. So essentially what you're saying is everybody's taking a look at this, right? This news is out there, change is happening, but like anything, you know, sometimes policy takes a while to get itself together when change is happening. So in the meantime, you know, what are some of the creative things at Proper Rate? You know, how are you working? How are your lenders working right now with a lot of the agents they're in conversation with who are working with buyers? Are there any unique scenarios or things that they're doing to think outside the box?
Definitely so. If you look at the amount of product that we've introduced over the last, call it 120 days, it's been more in the last 120 days in the last 2.5 years.
Wow.
So we've really accelerated that process. Things like that we've introduced our power bid, where borrowers can come in and get completely underwritten prior to even finding a home. our same-day mortgage, so we can get approved the exact same day they apply. We really sped up the process, especially in this tight inventory market. So to be able to get speed, to be able to execute for our customers is at paramount. Other things, just looking at some of the products, our rate product was just introduced a few weeks ago, is the top or the lowest priced jumbo mortgage out there that I can find in the greater Chicago area.
Okay.
So we're going to continue to look at innovative ways. That's one of the great things about the history of this company. It's always been very innovative with product, with speed, with executing for our customers, and most importantly for our real estate partners.
And help me understand, because I know that some of the conversation might be that if a buyer isn't able to pay for their broker, and let's say that there is not a co-op being offered, there is this idea of being able to roll something into closing costs. Is there anything that we're seeing, or what are some of the guidelines or things that you can kind of share for agents right now who might be trying to get a little bit creative with some of their buyers out there?
I would say get with your proper rate loan officer as soon as possible. We've just spent a whole morning, actually this morning, going over with our loan officers some of the opportunities that are out there. And it's really dependent on how big the down payment is that the borrower is putting down.
Okay.
So there's various percentages that we can consider for seller contributions, things that we can get creative with, but it depends on the product and it depends on the down payment. It's really important to sit down and strategize with your loan officer to make sure you understand this before you go to offer.
Okay. And so I love that. I think it is, one of the, bits of advice we have just been giving our agents is kind of get out in front of everything. Know that change is happening, know that there's some nuances that are going to be different in how you do business. So before the situation suddenly presents itself, see if you can get ahead of it, right? So I love the idea of getting with your loan officer, starting to come up with a strategy or a game plan. So tell me, what are some of the things that I think the lender and agent relationship, do you feel like that's going to change? Is it going to get tighter? What are some of the things that you're seeing your lenders do right now to add value to their agents?
The best ones are coming together and seeing how they can add value to the brand. Each agent's got a unique brand, and how can a loan officer position within that brand? And quite frankly, reinforce that brand and the importance of a good agent out there. Reinforcing to the client that they've made a great choice of choosing Amy to work with. Yeah. Reinforcing the knowledge of the local community that agent has. And it goes beyond just housing. I remember our house, and I joke around about this. Our agent, Kathy, in our Hinsdale office. Yeah. My wife, we put a new roof on just a couple months ago. We've had the house for 12 years. She called up Kathy and said, who do I use? Yeah. That's what the power of a real agent who's tied to the community, knows things and builds those relationships can do.
Yeah, and so I love having the lender kind of reinforce the value of not only having somebody help you through the professional finance side, but really all of the aspects of purchasing the home. So working together for that. I think it's great. True. All right, before I get you off the hot seat as it relates to NAR, any final words on the settlement or what you're seeing or thinking as we move forward?
Change is always hard, and we're in a climate. Not only has the industry changing right now, but the mortgage industry and the financing industry and the housing industry has changed. But it always finds a way. America, this is still the American dream. We are the most efficient housing market in the developed world. We've got the highest percentage of homeowners in the developed world. I'm bullish on it, and we'll find a way. The professional will win with this. Yeah. The cream always rises to the top.
I love that, and I agree. I think, for a lot of people who are really worried out there about a lot of this change is inevitable. It's happening. We're kind of in the storm, but instead of fearing it, I think it's finding the opportunity, figuring out where can I up my game and create opportunity for myself because the market's changing, right? So I think, you can be fearful or you can see it as an exciting time and an exciting opportunity. I think it'll be interesting for us in 10 years to look back and say, remember everything that was happening in this 2024 time period. So it'll be interesting. We'll have to wait and see, right? All right, so I'm going to take you out of the frying pan as it relates to the NAR settlement, but let's just talk about, the normal stuff. How are rates looking, right? So what are our predictions as we're moving into summer and into the second half of 2024? Peter Boomer, can you tell me, how are things looking? Are rates going down? Can we be excited for any good news?
Well, I think everybody's pivoted on that. If we remember back in December, a lot of the industry experts and probably the largest financial firms in the country were saying 6 to 8 rate cuts this year. Yeah. That's what we're going to see. We're not going to see that.
What are we going to see?
We're still probably going to see a couple cuts later this summer.
Okay.
That's what the market's priced in. There was some good sentiment a couple weeks ago coming out of whether it be unemployment is low, inflation's still a little bit high, there's job creations going well. So the economy's in a good spot, which is great for our industry. If the economy was in a bad spot, people aren't buying homes.
Right.
People feel comfortable, so there's still going to be homes. But the interest rates still are relatively a little high. And all the indication is we'll come down this summer, we'll be in a lower rate environment for this fall. And that's really, I think, how it's going to play out.
Yeah, and I think, when it comes to rates, I think it's kind of playing the long game, right? I think we're going to have to recognize that, you buy the house, you get into the rate, you stick with it for a little while. And I think, will we see in the near future, maybe not this year, but in the next 18, 24, 36 months, do you think we're going to see a refinance boom?
Definitely so.
Okay.
I would say I'm thinking closer to the 18-month as opposed to the 36-month.
Okay.
So
I was giving you a lot of leeway there,
I think
Peter.
2025 is going to be. As rates start to approach 5%, which things will start to ease.
Okay.
We know that. Rates do not stay in a linear fashion. They don't always go up. They don't always go down. We know that. That's what history shows us.
Right.
So they will start to ease. We just don't know when. And I think when they start to see that, you're going to start to see the refinance activity start to pick up. But more importantly, as rates come down, those people that are sitting on a 3% mortgage, well, I'm not going to move if I'm going to get a 7.5%.
Right.
But I will consider if I'm going to get a 5%.
Yeah.
And that's really the magic that we're going to see.
Right, because we do need some of those sellers to get moving, right? So on that note, as we get ready to wrap, 1, 2, or 3 of the programs that Proper Rate has right now that agents out there locally here in Chicagoland might be able to tap into.
I can't stress enough the new rate product. It's
Okay.
exclusive to us. It is the best price luxury jumbo mortgage product out there right
All right.
now. So we're very aggressive. We were really excited to launch that. Our Borrower Smart program. In fact, I was just pricing one for a loan officer that's thinking about journeying to Proper Rate for us, and for what he could offer at his existing local lender compared to what we could do with the Borrower Smart, the interest rate differential was almost 0.75%.
Wow.
So that's another great product. But then you get into our same day and our power bid. We're looking to change the industry. It's really about speed and convenience for the customer and being there when you need it. That same day mortgage, being able to get approved that same day you apply. And also the power bid, knowing you're an agent and a customer, not just some internet letter that they filled out some information on a computer, but something that's been fully underwritten. So when you're going in there, you know you are completely approved for that mortgage. That changes the experience for the customer.
I love it. I love it. Well, Peter Boomer, I really appreciate you joining me on Coffee this morning. We hope you got some great tidbits, ideas, things to think about as you are aligning with your lender out there. If you are looking for somebody local, Proper Rate, check them out. We've got some great individuals. It is Tuesday. Make it a great rest of the week. And remember what I always say, until I see you next time, you got this. Peter, that's what we say. You got this.
You got this.